Hello, welcome everyone. This is Always Acting Up. I'm your host, Caslin, and this is the podcast where I share personal stories and my journey as an actress in the entertainment industry. So this episode is perfect, exactly how I feel right now. This one, we're going to be talking about conquering the hard times. But first, I do want to give a special shout out to everyone who is listening on the podcast, all you guys watching on YouTube, all my new followers and people who have reached out on Instagram. And of course, I cannot forget, I do want to give a special shout out to the one and only Hisonni Johnson, who is the producer of my podcast. Like I mentioned, I did want to talk about conquering the hard times. And right now, I am in the midst of a extremely hard time. Podcasting is a new thing to me. It's not something I've really done before. I don't have a lot of experience. This is all new equipment, and goodness gracious, it is not as easy as you think. So everyone out there, give yourself a pat on the back. All you people working together, good job. It is hard. It is not easy, because this is actually the second time trying to do this podcast. I actually had a special guest on, and he called, and we spent about an hour or so talking and had a really wonderful conversation. I go to put it in my computer, and then I realized, wow, I didn't put a card into the machine, and we recorded to nothing. Yeah, that's right. We recorded to nothing, and it was just sort of a waste of a podcast. And luckily, I think the thing that does come out of this is that I'm pretty frustrated right now. My blood is boiling. And that's exactly what I want to talk about, conquering the hard times, because this is a hard time. I'll be honest, when I realized that I messed up, my very first thought was, wow, this is the third time I've tried doing a podcast and it has to be scrapped. Maybe I should just stop. I should just quit. This is so stupid. It's a waste of my time. I mean, honestly, that's how I feel. My blood is boiling. I'm a little frustrated. I need to take a deep breath. And luckily, the good thing is that I do have my producer here, and he is helping me with all these podcasts. And he's already put a lot of work into doing the editing. Even though we weren't able to use it, he's already put all the work into it. So for me to just stop, that means I've just not only wasted my time, but his time as well. So the original idea of why I wanted to do a podcast specifically on this topic, and I've said it many times before, this is a really difficult industry. It's really hard. Sometimes you just don't get that validation that you need to sort of make you feel like, yes, you are going in the right path. You are accomplishing what you need to. Because I was actually looking for people to have on my podcast to talk and do interviews, and I was like, you know what, I think I know the perfect person. This person is an actress in LA. She just finished a feature film. She actually was the writer and producer. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm doing this podcast. I think you're going to be one of the most perfect people to talk to right now. And she took a while to respond. And she eventually was like, you know what? I don't really consider myself an actress right now. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And the more she kept talking, the more intrigued I was. And she just said, honestly, I'm kind of in a bad funk right now. I don't really feel like talking much. And, she doesn't want to come off sounding like a downer on my podcast, because honestly, it's what she's been feeling lately. And I had to think to myself, okay, I have been exactly where she's been before. And unfortunately, I didn't have anything really profound to say to her, besides the fact that I've been there before. This time will pass. It's just going to be temporary right now. It's hard. Just keep on fighting the good fight. And so I was thinking about it. I've gone through some really, really tough times, as have we all. And what is it that keeps me going? Why do I push through? Why do I go through the next day? And I had to do some really long, hard thinking. And it's funny because I was talking to my friend in the other podcast, and I think we actually had a similar sort of story where, for me, I kind of hit rock bottom. I got to a point where I was just frustrated all the time. I was crying, I was grumpy, I was angry. Like, I couldn't find the positive in anything. And it sort of just dawned on me one day that, oh my God, like, I'm becoming my mom. Yeah, I mean, I love my mom and everything, but it's a little pessimistic and negative over there. And that is the last thing I wanted to do and wanted to be. And so I had to really make a conscious effort. And that is what I did, especially once I left California and I had the opportunity to start over in Las Vegas. I had to say to myself, every day, no matter what it is, no matter how bad the situation is, I have to be able to find the good in it. And I did. And it sounds really crazy, but it was for me that simple, I'm going to be positive. I really had to force myself, which some people it's easy and your environment helps a lot, but I had to find the good in everything. That it was just that was a really tough thing, and now that I've done it so often, I don't want to be grumpy anymore. I don't want to be angry anymore. I'm positive all the time. And even moments about like 1 hour ago when I realized I just wasted everyone's time, I started to slip into that, God, this is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. Until I realized, like, knock it off. Don't be ridiculous. Like, this is stupid. Move on. Try again. You're learning. You can't expect to be perfect on your very first time. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a pat on the back just for doing that. If you're having some frustrations and you can't seem to get out of that headspace, maybe you do need to take a break. There's nothing wrong with taking a break or go for a walk, do some yoga. I think working out, get those endorphins flowing because everything that's happening is small. Like it's small, temporary pieces of time. And if you think about an entire lifespan, what is 2 weeks? Really, what is 2 weeks of a hard time? And I really, really honestly believe that if we didn't have these hard times, that's what would make the victories, it wouldn't mean anything. And all you guys out there, I've been paying attention, so I do have a couple questions for you guys, and I think it really pertains to this subject of going through the hard times. This one says, well, first of all, what motivates you to keep going? For me personally, what motivates me is at this point, I've already put in a decade. So if I've already put in a decade and I stop now, I would sort of feel like I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. Like there's a fear of failure that I don't like. I want to know that just because I haven't accomplished what I want to right now, I know it's going to happen at some point, and I may not reach crazy levels of success. Like that's totally fine. But if I can be consistently working and being creative and being an artist that I am, then that is a sense of accomplishment for me. And I think that's kind of it for a lot of people as well. I've already put in the work. I'm not good at anything else. I am good at, I think this as a business. I'm good at getting my stuff done. I know what to do. And that's sort of what keeps me going. I've already done it, so why not just keep going? And there's always people like, I think Morgan Freeman's one for sure. I kind of want to say Harrison Ford. And there's plenty of other actors who were like me, were acting in their younger years. And they didn't really hit success until they were older. So I think just because you're not getting success right off the bat doesn't mean that it won't happen for you. It's persistent. And if anybody knows me, I am probably one of the most persistent and consistent people you'll ever meet. I just don't stop. I think that I don't know how. And I think that that's okay. Okay, and on to my next question. What are your 3 favorite words or words that you live by? Alrighty, that is a great question. I know my favorite word would be gratitude, and that is probably one of my favorite words. I have to kind of remind myself about it all the time. Be grateful. And I'm talking for everything. We are not entitled to a house over our head. We are not entitled to our health. I know it's something that most of us have and we take for granted every day, but it's not something that everybody has, unfortunately. Like, it's really something to be grateful for. And I think the little small itty bitty things that we have, you have to be grateful for it. And at some point, if you're grateful for all these little things, you're grateful for a lot. You have so much. And I think that's really helpful in changing the perspective. And I'm not trying to sound all hokey or just change your mindset. It's easy. It took me a really long time, but it works. It really does. Positivity and your mindset is a huge, huge asset. And I think being grateful is probably the biggest thing for me. So that would be word numero uno. The second word, oh, well, I don't really know if this is a strong word, but it's one of my favorites, and it's professionalism. I think being professional is so important. Just on so many levels. Being on time, getting your business taken care of. Yeah, I think being on time. I don't know if being on time should be a word in itself, but it is so important to me that early is on time is late. And nothing frustrates me more than when people are late, because it's ultimately saying that your time is more important than mine. And I'm so glad that you showed up with your Starbucks coffee cup. That's very nice, because I've been sitting here waiting for you starving. You know what I'm saying? So that would be word number 2, is one of my favorite words. And let's see, word number 3. Let's say probably love. We need a little bit more love in the world. Love each other. Love yourself. That's really important. I think we forget about ourselves. And you can't really love everyone else if you don't love yourself. I think it's okay to be, I don't think it's considered selfish. I think you should have, God, I don't want to steal my friend's words, but he said a full cup. You kind of have to be a full cup for yourself. You have to be full in order to share and help everyone else. So I think those are some really important words. Another question. Oh, this is a really, really great question. And this question is actually something that would get me down all the time. And I'm sure a lot of actors out there have heard this, a lot of artists, but this is a question I would hear all the time. And it would just kind of make me go down this rabbit hole of, wow, I really haven't accomplished anything, or I suck. Like, I'm terrible. I've wasted my time. I'm wasting everyone's time. But when people would ask me all the time, when are you going to, maybe move on and get a real job? Goodness gracious. I'm going to do a little crickets for you guys here. I think my eyes just rolled in the back of my head as well. That question would get me down all the time. And I think a way to answer that for some people, well, first of all, what's a real job? What is it? Somebody sitting in a 9 to 5 or traditional job, I think is what they're referring to. And luckily, being 2020, I think that it's sort of changing. I think now with the millennial generation, everyone's kind of an entrepreneur. We're all kind of doing different things, making money a new way. So when people are saying, when are you going to get a real job? Well, what does that mean? And even if I did get a traditional job, why? Like, you have to ask the people, well, are you happy with your job? Because think about it. We have a life, and we only have a certain amount of time to be healthy, to be energetic, to be creative. And if you've spent that life in a job that you hate or you're unhappy with and you're not fulfilling yourself, you get what? 10, 11, maybe 20 years of retirement. And by that point, if you're lucky enough to get there, maybe your health is not so great. So I had to really start to ignore that question of when you're going to get a real job, because I'm happy with my jobs, plural. Many of us have multiple jobs to keep this business going. I think another thing that would be really great for people kind of going through a hard time, write it down. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but maybe a personal journal, my bad. Maybe a personal journal or blog. You're not the only one out there having a hard time. We're all struggling. We're all trying to get through this. And just remember, it's temporary. And who knows, like maybe all your journaling, maybe it'll turn into a script. Maybe you will work yourself out of your own struggles. So that would be conquering the hard time. And as usual, my favorite part of the podcast, we are going to have a little bit of positivity. Okay, so this quote is dope, and I wish that somebody would have said this to me a long time ago. So I'm going to go ahead and share it to you. This is a quote that I actually heard an athlete, the Olympic champion for gymnastics, Nastya Liukin, and I was listening to an interview that she was saying about her hard times and what kind of got her through it. She was having a conversation, I guess, with her mom, and what her mom said was, okay, well, if you want to quit, that's fine, like no problem, but quit on a good day. I was like, whoa, you're right. If you really were having these moments of wanting to quit, you can't quit on a bad day because you just can't do that, okay? Make sure to quit on a good day because everyone's going to have your bad days. It's a part of life. And if maybe if you really do want to take a break and try something new, maybe do that after you've had a really successful day. See if your mind's changed. See if everything is, see if you still have those feelings. So anyways, that was my moment of positivity today. Just want to remind you guys, and I know I've said it a couple times throughout this podcast, the struggle is real. We can conquer these hard times. It's not just you. We all feel it together. Take yourself out of the rabbit hole. Move on to the next day. Force yourself to be positive, and you can do anything. And of course, we are at the end of my podcast today. Thank you guys for joining me on the Instagram, YouTube, and the podcast. Make sure to follow me. That is my name, Caslin Rose, Caslin. And of course, a big thank you to my producer, Hisonni. If you guys have any questions or a topic you'd like me to talk about, comment suggestions, anything super positive, let me know. Leave it in the comments below, and I will catch you next time. You guys, have a good day. All right, well, hopefully everything has been recorded this time. And that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just have to try it again. So I'm going to cross my fingers, put a big old smile on my face, and I hope this video worked this time. Thanks for watching.